What's up guys, I'm VocalStrike and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution. Last time we got a little introduction into the card game. And this time, we are going to go into the next chapter. I did notice, however, in the last episode that I was stumbling over my words a lot. I honestly do need to get better at that. So I'm going to try to make an effort to get better at that. And one of the things I actually did forget to mention is that Link Evolution is a upgrade to the original Legacy of the Duelist. And it comes with all of the DLC duels from the original Legacy of the Duelist already put into the game. And it's not a full $60 price tag, last I checked. So this is still a game very much worth picking up. The Heart of the Cards. That afternoon, Yugi and his friends went to Grandpa's game shop. Yugi wanted to show his friends his grandpa's prized possession. Gramps, could you show my friend your awesome super rare card? Rare card? You mean my special card? Please, please? How can I refuse? You kids are in for a treat. I don't take this card out too often. Ready? Here it is. The Blue Eyes White Dragon. So rare, so powerful, I never let it leave my hands. This card is priceless. There are only 4 of them in all the world. Suddenly, a classmate from school ran into the shop. His name was Seto Kaiba, the young CEO of Kaiba Corp. He had found the card he was looking for. Name your price for that Blue Eyes. I can pay anything you ask. I'm sure you could, but this card is worth more to me than you could ever offer. Senile old fool. Kaiba stormed out of Grandpa's store. The team was disturbed by Kaiba's obsession with the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Sorry about that. My saliva tried to go down the wrong hole. Not a pleasant sight. Just for clarification, since you can probably guess this is very much an abridged version of the story where they don't really go into every detail. Kaiba was not necessarily offering money. He had a briefcase with him full of cards. Of probably almost every single card type in the game. Excuse me. Kaiba stormed out of Grandpa's store. The team was disturbed by Kaiba's obsession with Blue Eyes White Dragon. The next day, when Yugi came back to the store with his friends, he found Grandpa was gone. When the phone rang, it was Kaiba on the other end, mocking Yugi that he kidnapped his grandfather and took him to Kaiba Corp. Yugi and his friends rushed to Kaiba Corp and found Grandpa laying on the floor, defeated. Grandpa, are you okay? Yugi, I failed. I wanted to teach that boy Kaiba a lesson about the heart of the cards, but I lost. Grandpa! How's the old man feeling, Kaiba, you sleaze. What have you done to him? We had a duel, that's all. With each of us putting up our most valuable card as the prize. But I guess playing against a champion like myself was just too much stimulation for the old fool. Yeah, Kaiba's a bit of a jerk. But since they also played using what's called the anti-rule, is usually what it's called. And the anti-rule is essentially like you play the card game as normal, but each of you put up a card as the prize. In some cases, though, the winner actually chooses who takes the card, what card they take from the loser's deck. In Season 0, there's a little bit more of a build-up. Kaiba, you should be ashamed of yourself. Look at the sweet prize I won. Kaiba held up Grandpa's Blue Eyes White Dragon and ripped it in half. Grandpa's most treasured card. Blue Eyes White Dragon is a rare and powerful card, and this one will never be used against me. My Blue Eyes White Dragon, my treasure. Grandpa, hold on. How could you do such a thing? Yugi, take this. Huh, Grandpa? I built this deck. I put my soul in these cards, and I taught you everything I know, Yugi. Take my cards and teach Kaiba respect for the heart of the cards. Okay, Grandpa, I'll do it. Are you ready to play, Runt? Playtime is over, Kaiba. Huh? Kaiba was taken aback by Yugi's sudden transformation. It seemed like he had become a different person, as if he was more confident and powerful than before. Kaiba, prepare yourself because it's time to duel. Since this is not a tutorial duel, we get to have two different options. You can either use a deck that's given to you by default on that chapter as part of the story deck, or you can use a deck that you made yourself, or any of the deck recipes that you have unlocked. We are going to be using the story decks pretty much throughout the game. And each story deck does have a different strategy. How one chooses who goes first is generally determined by whatever the player wants. They can either choose, hey, I'll go first, or they could roll a die, and they could either roll a die, and who rolls highest gets to choose whether to go first or second. Rock, paper, scissors. In this case, we're going to be doing rock, paper, scissors. Kaiba won that, and I'm going first, since he wanted to go second. If you were following the Season 0 anime or read the original manga, you'd actually known that this was actually not the first time Kaiba and Yugi would duel. This would actually be the second time for it to mirror the Season 0 manga version of this duel and the Duel Monsters version of this duel. Kaiba has a bunch of strong cards, with his weakest card usually being Sagi the Dark Clown. But the main cards you really want to worry about are the Blue Eyes White Dragon. I don't have a lot of good cards at the moment. So let's do this. And the deck that we are currently running actually is the same one from the anime. They try to stay as close to the original anime as possible, but at the same time, they also... Oh, and you have the Blue Eyes already. I actually kind of want that Blue Eyes for myself because I have Snatch Steal. They try to stay as close to the anime versions as much as possible in the story duels. I also kind of want to save our Geki for the other... for the other Blue Eyes. Negate attack, so attack is negated. And battle phase is over. In Season 0, and by extension the original manga, Kaiba and Yugi... Kaiba actually discovers that the Blue Eyes is actually in this shop a while ago. Like, actually a fairly long time ago. And he actually gets to even see and actually hold the Blue Eyes White Dragon card. Anyway, yeah, let's use our Geki. Ancient lamp, which let him brought out Lejin. I would have chosen to redirect my attacks, and Trap Master would have gotten rid of my trap card. So basically, Kaiba was able to actually touch and hold it, and it basically played out very similarly to what happened in the shop just recently. The next day, though, Yugi manages to convince his grandfather to bring his blue eyes over to school, just so long as he did not use it in any duel. And, of course, Yugi accepted. And Kaiba wanted to see and hold it again. Of course, naturally, he had an agenda for it. But, of course, Yugi didn't know at first. Yugi allowed it. And oops. Let's get rid of you, Mimic Graveyard. Anyway, Yugi allowed it. And what ended up happening was that Kaiba was going to try to replace it with a fake Blue Eyes White Dragon that he made himself. And the fake was actually so close to the real thing that a normal gamer or a normal Duel Monsters player would not be able to tell the difference. But of course, Yugi managed to tell the difference anyway right away. So he confronted Kaiba, and Kaiba refused to give the blue eyes back. At that point, Yami Yugi came out much like he did now, and challenged him to a shadow game, where the game was of course Duel Monsters. And Kaiba did not have his 3 blue eyes at the time. Yugi does manage to win the game, and he got his grandfather's blue eyes back. But how the shadow game worked is that they played on a table, very much like how we play the card game now. But every time they played a card, the card came to life. Yugi was actually winning. And unless Kaiba and the only way Kaiba had a chance of winning, since Yugi did not have Exodia at the time, he basically put the Blue Eyes White Dragon that he had in his pocket on top of his deck, like in a very sneaky way, which was cheating. Drew it and played it. So he ordered the Blue Eyes to attack so that he could actually win the duel and gain the upper hand. The Blue Eyes did not obey though, because of the heart of the cards essentially. That Blue Eyes White Dragon had Yugi grandfather's heart put into it. Not literally, of course. And as a result, between being torn by obeying the person who summoned it and following his grandfather's wishes, like honestly respecting his actual master's wishes, which is being Grandpa Muto, it as a result self-destructed and Yugi won, winning back the dragon. And this was the first time that Kaiba ever lost a duel against anyone. Afterwards, which would lead up to a duel that kind of mirrors this, he creates the Death Tea in this very building that we're actually outside of. In the Duel Monsters anime, it's essentially the Kaiba Corp headquarters, but in the Season 0 anime and in the manga, it is the location of Kaiba Land, a indoor amusement park that Kaiba himself created with the Kaiba Corp. But it also had this thing called Death Tea in it, which was a set of games that Yugi and his friends were going to participate in to take down Kaiba. And yes, in Season 0, as if it wasn't obvious, Kaiba was the main antagonist. Before they go into Death Tea, Grandpa loses a duel very much like it is now, and goes, but it's in not really a duel arena that they use in the Duel Monsters anime. It's called a battle box, which was basically a table inside a glass case that created holograms of the monsters, and it was inspired by the Shadow game. Yugi's grandfather loses and goes through a punishment by essentially going through a holographic version of what Kaiba had to go through during his punishment after he lost the Shadow game, which was basically being constantly attacked and destroyed by monsters. Yugi accepts the challenge and shuts down the punishment. And Kaiba shuts down the punishment, which then Yugi's grandfather goes to the hospital. Because, that's a lot to take in for an old man. Naturally, a lot of games are rigged, and of course, as the name suggests, all the games are death traps. Where if Yugi and his friends loses, they actually die. And then it all leads up to essentially this duel. And yes, Kaiba actually did rip the grandpa's blue eyes for disobeying it. In this case, he ripped it so that it could never be used against him. And it's even told how Kaiba got his 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. He essentially did it through very, very illegal means. Stealing, murder, etc. He even said that one of the Blue Eyes White Dragons owners actually committed suicide after Kaiba took the dragon. So, yeah, not exactly a nice guy. And since Kaiba had 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, there was really only one way Yugi could win. And again, it's very much like in Duel Monsters with Exodia, which we did have in that deck, we just didn't draw any pieces. Knowing my luck, it was probably at all 5 pieces were probably at the bottom of the deck. But let's go through this and I'll talk about Exodia in the next duel. You play only for power, Kaiba. That is why you lost. But if you put your heart in the game, there is nothing you can't do. One thing he actually also they're also not saying is that Yami Yugi did what was called a mind crush. In the manga, this put Kaiba in a coma because he was picking up the pieces of his heart and has to piece it back together like a puzzle. So he's kind of reevaluating himself, and until he finishes, he is in a coma. But in the Duel Monsters anime, he was not put into a coma. Instead, the dark side of him, the one that actually made him do all, the side of him that made him do all this, got destroyed. Kaiba does still remain a jerk throughout the Duel Monsters series, but he's not like borderline evil anymore, essentially. And I don't remember if we actually get to see the dark side of Kaiba again in this game. I know he takes him on in Duelist Kingdom, but I don't remember if the duel is in this game specifically. This game does not cover every single duel throughout all the shows. The results of the duel spread quickly, and a mysterious one-eyed man got news of Yugi's victory. It seems Kaiba Boy has been defeated in a duel. I must learn more about this Yugi Muto. Oh yes, we can also unlock reverse duels. Let's see. And we also get to unlock booster packs. Signature cards, of course, the Blue Eyes, Negate Attack. Speaking of the Blue Eyes, you also probably noticed that we got an animation when Kaiba summoned his Blue Eyes. In this game, some of the more popular cards, not all of them, but some of them actually do get their own little animations that play out when they're being played. Downside is that some of these cards that have these animations can be played over and over and over and over again, which means you're forced to watch it over and over and over and over again. And no, you can't skip it. Something I also did not mention. You get random cards, like new card awards, which is different from the signature cards. The signature cards you only get once and only if you beat that duel. You only get challenge decks and deck recipes, deck avatars, reverse duels, and packs for winning the duel. But you get new cards awards, which are just random cards from your opponent that your opponents had, and duel points from either winning or losing duels. You don't get nearly as much for losing, but you always get something. And what a reverse duel is that, and this will not apply to the tutorial duels. This only applies to all the others. If you press the square button on a duel that you won, you notice that, as you can see, Kaiba's now on the left side, Yami Yugi's on the right. We go into this duel as is, we are playing as Kaiba. We get no context for the duel, you're literally just thrown in, and you are expected to win. If you want to unlock everything, every single challenge, every single deck recipe, every single avatar in some cases, you are going to be doing both the normal duels and the reverse duels. So you're going to be doing every single duel at least twice. We are not going to be doing the reverse duels per se, because that would honestly take too long. So let's go into the next duel, the Ultimate Great Moth. Another thing that I should also note is that Kaiba's design before, we actually don't see that until Battle City. His design in Season 0 anime is that he actually has green hair. I'm not kidding. And in the in the Duelist Kingdom arc of Duel Monsters, he doesn't have that white suit that he's most commonly known for. After his win against Seto Kaiba, Yugi was puzzled to receive a package from Maximilian Pegasus, the creator of Duel Monsters. Inside the box was a videotape. Yugi inserted the tape into the VCR, and Pegasus' face popped up on the TV screen. In the manga, this was not a VCR tape. This was a cassette tape. Or as the manga called it, 8mm tape. Greetings, little Yugi. I am Maximilian Pegasus. I've heard some terribly interesting things about you. Your impressive defeat of Seto Kaiba intrigued me so much that I decided to investigate your amazing dueling skills personally. Right here and now, we shall hold a special duel. Suddenly, a strange and arcane magic froze time so that no one could move, except for Yugi. In the manga, no one was frozen. They actually saw the duel play out, but they were not shown the monsters, as in the case with Yugi and Pegasus. This dark dimension we're in is known as the Shadow Realm, a mystical space where incredible monsters can be summoned, and the impossible is quite possible. In the subbed version, the Shadow Realm is not really a thing. I'm not 100% sure if the Shadow Realm is a thing in the manga, since again I'm not very far into it. But the Shadow Realm is only in the dubbed version of the anime. Traditionally, if you lost in a shadow game or cheated in a shadow game, you were punished. Your soul was either forever trapped, or you would be actually die, or, something along those lines. In the dubbed version, your soul gets taken and is imprisoned in the shadow realm until the person who trapped them to begin with is defeated in a shadow game. Because, in the English dubbed version, they didn't exactly want death involved. Tell me, Yugi, do you believe there is magic in these cards? Don't you know? You invented this game. What if I told you I didn't? Huh? In ancient times, the Egyptians called this the Shadow Game. Powerful pharaohs would hold mystical duels in other dimensions, just as we're doing now. But instead of cards, they battled with real monsters and real magic. The magical forces were so powerful that the Egyptians lost control of them and nearly destroyed the entire world. It's a good story, but these monsters can't be real. Funny thing, keep in mind, Season 0 and the mangas are not canon to the rest of the anime. These monsters are very real, and also quite dangerous. Yugi boy, you really are quite entertaining. The way you scowl and sneer, so defiant yet helpless, and so completely ignorant of the power of your Millennium Puzzle. Yugi looked down at the Millennium Puzzle that he wore around his neck. The power of my puzzle? 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago in the subbed and manga versions, a powerful pharaoh locked the magic of the Shadow Games away in 7 mystical Millennium items. 7 items? You're saying that my puzzle's one of them? Yes, and there are mystical energies locked within it. Magic that could change your life forever if you only knew how to unleash it. In the manga, Pegasus did not reveal any of this in this Shadow Game. As the two dueled, it seemed that Pegasus knew every move Yugi was going to make before he did. Despite this disadvantage, Yugi mustered all his skills and nearly won, but Yugi ran out of time when the time limit passed. Yeah, there was a time limit in this duel. Whoever's life points hit 0, actually follow the traditional win conditions, or whoever had the least life points at the end of the timer loses. So Yugi actually would have won, but the timer expired before the attack could go through. I have taken the measure of your talents this day, Yugi Muto, and when next we duel, we shall play for far higher stakes. I'm done with your games. Tisk, tisk, tisk. You presume I'm giving you a choice in the matter, but I'm not. For I also possess one of the 7 Millennium items, the all-powerful Millennium Eye. Each Millennium item, I'm stumbling over my words again, I apologize. Each Millennium item has a unique power. But they all have the power over the Shadow Games and can actually do what Pegasus just did now. But each item does have its own unique power. Yugi's Millennium Puzzle, other than housing the spirit of the Pharaoh himself, it also provided a luck boost to the owner. And that luck boost was actually provided. The luck boost was basically determined by how skilled the owner is at games. And Yugi, being the king of games and being extremely skilled, means that his luck was extremely high. So that also is a way to explain why he's always seems to be so lucky in these games. So in universe, it is because of the Millennium Puzzle and the heart of the and his faith in the heart of the cards. In his faith in his puzzle. But in real life, it's because plot armor. Pegasus' Millennium Eye allows him, which he is hiding underneath that hair on his left eye socket, has the power to actually read people's minds. A Millennium Eye? That's right, Yugi boy. I'll show you the true extent of its magic. I found that, given the proper incentive, anyone can be made to play my game. The power of the Millennium Eye lashed out and stole Grandpa's soul. Yugi could only watch in horror. Yugi! Grandpa! We will duel again, Yugi. How else will you ever reclaim your grandfather's soul? Yugi had no choice but to compete in Pegasus' Duelist Kingdom tournament, so that he could get his grandfather's soul back. In the anime, both subbed and dubbed version, Yugi's grandfather soul is trapped inside a card. But in the manga version, his soul is trapped inside the tape that was used to duel him. So Yugi can actually still communicate with his grandfather and actually took him to Duelist Kingdom with him. At Duelist Kingdom, each duelist was given 2 star chips, which they could wager against other duelists on the island. Whoever earned 10 star chips gained entry into the tournament finals, where they would compete for the $3 million grand prize and the chance to duel Pegasus himself. For his first duel, Yugi faced off against a conniving Weevil Underwood, a duelist with whom he had a bit of history. While riding the boat to Duelist Kingdom, Weevil took Yugi's precious Exodia cards and threw them into the ocean, effectively cementing our hatred for Weevil Underwood. And Weevil... So when Yugi spied Weevil on the island, he chased after him into the woods. Weevil's Japanese name is Insector Haga, which honestly, I think Weevil Underwood is a much better name. Welcome, said the spider to the fly. You flew right into my trap. It's time you answer for destroying my Exodia cards, Weevil. Can't you let bygones be bygones? Weevil, it's time to find out if you're as good at dueling as you are of running away. Was I simply running away or cleverly weaving you into my web? It's time to duel. Since I didn't have a chance to talk about it in the last duel, there are actually cards that actually gives the owners of those cards an instant win if certain conditions are met. One of those cards was Exodia. If you got all 5 pieces of Exodia in your hand, you would instantly win the duel. The 5 pieces are both the left and right legs of the Forbidden One, the left and right arms of the Forbidden One, and the Exodia head, also known as Exodia the Forbidden One. In the anime version, as you can see, we are dueling on what's known as a duel arena. The red and blue things that you're seeing behind the cards, that's where the duelists would stand. They would place the cards on the board on their side, and the holograms would come up on the arena itself. And because the arenas were big, the holograms by extension were big as well. In the manga version, they are using what's known as battle boxes, which was a creation inspired by, which Kaiba was inspired to create from the Shadow game that he and Yugi had before the whole Death Tea thing. And it was a collaborative project between Industrial Illusions, which is owned by Pegasus, and Kaiba Corp, which was owned by Kaiba. And the battle boxes were these tables inside glass cases. And whenever you played the card on the table, it would actually create a small hologram on the table of the cards you were playing. Let's see. Let's bring out Giant Soldier Stone. Yeah, Yugi no longer has Exodia. The creators decided to have Yugi lose Exodia so that they didn't have to rely on falling back to Exodia whenever Yugi was in a pinch. This was to avoid temptations. But also, let's go over spell speed, as I have mentioned before. Now, despite its name, spell speed actually affects monsters, spells, and trap card effects. And spell speeds actually help determine like what timing do certain cards actually play out. Again, I don't exactly fully understand the whole spell speed system. There are that's mostly what I understand. If you're playing a casual game with a friend or a family on a table or on the floor, or if you're playing an official video game like this, you don't need to worry about it unless your opponent's a real big stickler for the rules. And the official video games will actually do all that stuff for you. So all you really need to worry about is the whole chain link system. That's it. However, if you are going to official tournaments, it's best that you actually understand the whole speed spell system and how it works. In tournaments, you do need to understand how this whole spell speed works, how the spell speed system kind of works. I actually went to a few local tournaments in the past. Never won a single tournament, mind you. And well, I didn't even fully follow the spell speed rulings, and I never got in trouble for it. So there are definitely a lot of players who don't fully understand the whole spell speed system. But if you're going to, say, the World Championships, or really any tournament, it is better if you actually do know the spell speed system. And there are YouTube channels that are more dedicated, whose main content is this card game, that can actually explain it better than I ever could. Okay, so basically what happened there in the last battle was Howling Insect. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one insect type monster with 1500 or less attack points from your deck, which he summoned Hercules Beetle. And he also has Forest, so all of his insect monsters, which is what Weevil Underwood uses, gets a 200 attack point boost. I have Wasteland, so all of my Dinosaur, Rock, and Zombie monsters will get a 200 attack point boost. But however, I only have, well, a rock type monster that can actually benefit with that. Let's see what we get with Graceful Charity. I draw 3 cards and discard 2. I don't need Wasteland. And let's get rid of Makio. Another thing to note is that let's also cover over some of the monsters in greater detail. Every single monster has an attribute, a level, a name, a text box, attack points, and defense points. There are a total of 7 attributes in the game. Spells and trap cards also get their own little symbol of attributes, but I don't really call them attributes. The 7 attributes are Fire, Water, Wind, Earth, Light, Dark, and Divine. Each monster also has a different type to it, and those types, there's a lot of types. If you are playing an older version of the game, if you were playing an older version of the game, Worm types did not exist until the Arc 5 era, Cyber types did not exist until the Vrains era, and Psychic types did not exist until the 5Ds era. The monster types and the attributes are generally only there for certain card effects. So, like, for instance, Wasteland here increases the power, attack, and defense of all dinosaur, zombie, and rock type monsters. My Celtic Guardian is a warrior, so it doesn't get that power boost. But Giant Soldier of Stone is a rock type, which does get that power boost. Since we also have the cards here, let's also dive in a little bit into fusions. Fusion monsters are the first in many extra deck monsters that they develop. If you are playing an older version of the game, the extra deck is known as the fusion deck. How you fusion summon is that you need a fusion card, a card that basically has the power to fuse 2 or 3 monsters together, either from your hand or the field, in order for you to fusion summon a fusion monster. This is the most common fusion card is polymerization. But you need very specific cards. Some cards will actually require certain types of monsters, but most will require very specific named monsters. Like in the case with Gaia the Dragon Champion that we have, that requires Gaia the Fierce Knight and Curse of Dragon. Oh sweet, I can actually get power bonus from the forest with Griffor, because he's a beast type. Oh no! Man-eater bug. But that is basically how fusion monsters work. And this is also kind of where the extra monster zones come into play. Whenever you summon a monster from your extra deck, be it a fusion or whatever, it can go into the extra monster zones. Fusions, synchros, and Xyz monsters are not restricted to the extra monster zones like they were in a previous ruling. You can choose to either put them in one of the extra monster zones, and whichever zone you don't choose becomes your opponent's zone. Or you can summon them in the normal monster zones, so that you can always wind up getting more, especially if you're not relying on link monsters. And I made a mistake. Oops. And since we also went through Man-Eater Bug, sorry, there's again a lot to cover. That was our second instance technically of a flip effect monster. Flip effects only activate when they are in face down defense position, very much like this monster here on Weevil's side. A flip effect will only activate if the monster is targeted for an attack, the face down monster is targeted for an attack, or if you flip it face up attack position on your turn. The effect is then activated. There are certain card effects that will force them to flip over flip effect monsters, unless those specific card effects state that the flip effects are not activated. That will trigger the flip effect anyway. Man-Eater Bug is one of the deadlier ones that you need to look out for. Another thing we need to look out for in Weevil's deck is Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth that he has lying around in this deck, which is devastating. Fortunately, we have ways of dealing with it. Please don't let it be another Man-Eater Bug. It's a Cocoon of Evolution. Okay, yeah, because he's using it this way, I don't think he can actually summon Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth. He has ways of bringing it out much easier with more modern cards compared to just relying on the Cocoon of Evolution ruling, which required a lot of setup, a lot of steps, and it's just really hard to bring out. And as you saw, because my Giant Soldiers of Stone attack points were the same as Cocoon of Evolution's defense points, nothing happens. If two attack position monsters fight each other and they have the same attack points, no one takes battle damage and both monsters are destroyed. Let's also go over like some of the changes in the board. This is not going to be really important if you're playing the game nowadays, but it's also kind of important if you are playing some of the older games. From the Duel Monsters era all the way up to the Zexal era, there was a bit of a board. The board isn't like how it is now, as you should be seeing in a picture up on the screen, or on the screen. In the Duel Monsters and GX era, the extra deck was known as the Fusion deck, because Fusion Monsters were the only things that existed. Also, Pendulum Zones and Extra Monster Zones did not exist either. If you are also playing an older version of the game, there was also a slight rule change in terms of the draw phase as well as the deck. In the older games, the person who went first drew the first card of the game but cannot attack first. This was of course changed to give the second player the extra card advantage instead. And the other change was actually in the deck. The deck itself, at the time, could be anywhere between 40 and unlimited cards. 40 was always the minimum, but there was never a deck maximum. This was changed during a World Championship tournament, I want to say in the mid-2000s somewhere, I forget the exact year. But someone came into the World Championship tournament with a deck of 2,222 cards. I am not kidding. This actually happened. It took two people to actually carry the deck from point A to point B while it's in its case, and it took a lot more people to actually effectively shuffle the deck. They couldn't throw him out because he wasn't breaking any rules since there wasn't a deck maximum limit. After the tournament though, I'm not sure if he won or lost with that deck, but after the tournament, they ultimately decided that to prevent this from happening again, because it was really inconvenient and really slow, to put in the maximum deck limit of 60 cards. And that's what ended up happening. And of course we have Gaia the Fierce Knight. So since Gaia the Fierce Knight is a level 7, we must tribute 2 cards in order to summon Gaia, which is strong enough to kill that cocoon. Also throughout Duelist Kingdom, depending on where you are, depending on what the field actually was like, and monsters actually got a field power bonus depending on where they were playing. So like warriors and beast warriors got a power bonus in the plains, beasts and insects got a power field bonus in the got a field power bonus in the forest, etc. That was the gimmick of Duelist Kingdom. Basic insect, easy to kill. And petite moth, also easy to kill. Okay, so we have him on the ropes for now. But he did get perfectly ultimate great moths. Ooh, graceful charity. Pot of greed. If you are playing the single player, be it the challenges, the draft mode, or the campaign mode, you have... I'm gonna set this in defense mode. Get ready for Dark Magician. You have you can use basically any card you want. You are not restricted to the ban list that's built into the game at the time. However, if you are playing the multiplayer, you have to follow the ban list. No choice. Oh, Wabaku. Okay. No sense of continuing my turn then. Uh-oh. The perfectly ultimate great moth. Cannot be normal summoner set. Cannot be normal summoner set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by attributing one petite moth on your 6th turn or later after it was equipped with Cocoon of Evolution. You can see why this card is very hard to bring out, considering I was very easily able to actually... destroy the cocoon. Fortunately, I had Mirror Force to help. And of course, we now have Yugi's ace, the Dark Magician. Please don't be Mirror Force. Oh, thank God. Oh, just enough for him to survive. Assuming he doesn't pull out another big move again, then... Okay, yeah. He has a dead hand. Ah, Curse of Dragon. Dark Magician, do the honors. It's over. I've won. Just to clarify, also, each duel starts off with 2 star chips. Yugi gave one of his star chips to Joey, so that they can both participate in the tournament. Yugi is dueling to save his grandfather's soul. Joey is dueling so that he can get the prize money for Serenity's eye operation. Otherwise, Serenity, his little sister, is going to be blind permanently. So, Yugi managed to talk Weevil into offering up both of his star chips by not only, depending on what version you are watching, in the anime, Yugi bets his one and only star chip and his entire dueling deck. And Weevil takes the bait. Weevil takes it. Accepts to the terms, and the duel goes as what you saw. Yugi wins, gained both his star chips, and knocking Weevil out of the tournament first time, which was Yugi's goal since, a bit of a personal grudge after what happened with Exodia. No, impossible! My moth is unbeatable! He also does not have Insect Queen at this point. And since he was also out of the tournament, this is where Joey also gets his dueling glove. Each duelist in the tournament was given a dueling glove, so that they can place their star chips on it. And before we end this off, there is one thing I do want to show now that we basically unlocked packs. You unlock packs just by going through the game, and each era does have its own set of packs. You earn duel points by dueling, by either playing in the multiplayer or by playing in the single player. You will get duel points no matter what, but you will get more duel points for winning. There is no microtransactions. You then spend duel points on any of the packs, and each pack does have a set list of cards that you can get, like so. And you get a total of 8 packs. You are guaranteed 1 card from that pack, as you can see. These cards are not very great considering that this is a starter pack, but Silent Grandpa's pack is also the only pack that has the Exodia pieces if you want to get those. So even more reason for picking up this game. And that is due to the fact that there's also no microtransactions. There is technically loot boxes in this, but I always compared loot boxes to opening a pack of cards that you buy in a store anyway. So, not that big of a deal. So, in the next episode, we are going to go on to the next chapter in this story, the Harpy Lady. Thanks so much for watching, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.